Thank you, Eglė. So you're welcome to join the panel, and I would invite other panelists. First of all, Angelina Bekasova, Space and Innovation Policy Senior Expert from the Ministry of Economics of the Republic of Latvia and Director for International Relations and Industry Development at Latvian Space Industry Association. Angelina. Also, I would like to invite Jaan, that we already know. Jaan, is it a surprise for you? No? And last but not least, I would like to invite to the panel Kristaps Banga, Head of Innovations and Growth at one of the largest IT companies in Latvia, or the largest IT company at Accenture Baltics. And so, welcome, guys. Okay, so this panel is really, we want to move from a little bit from just STEM into space and the possibilities in the space industry, but I would still like to start this with more general question to link it back on topics of STEM, on promoting STEM. Which STEM fields do you feel are the most relevant in the space industry? Which of the STEM professions are most applicable and needed in the space industry? Jaan, maybe we can start with you.
So, yeah, it's a very interesting question, but space is really an interesting topic as well. And one of the specific peculiarities of space is that you need everything. I mean, you have to, even like building a satellite needs so many engineers and also social scientists and everything. So it's very difficult to pick. But I think software is starting to be a big part of any kind of technology. And it's an electronical device, a robotic device, of course, in space. And I would say like IT and engineering are leading the way.
Yeah. Kristaps.
Yeah, thanks. I would really agree that actually all the skills and all the roles are needed, right? And I can even add on top of the STEM also the service design is important, because data visualization and how you actually present that is equally important as you gather them, right? Because if nobody understands what you have gathered and what's in it, then what's the point? Yeah. Yeah. So it's all over, starting from deep tech, like deep mathematics, to service design, to the people who are empathic and understand also how to visualize the data. Yep.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do agree with the panelists, and I'm very happy that at least the data of this year's submission to the universities is showing that more and more students will engage in IT studies. So I think it will add a little bit to the problem solution, but still those numbers are very low. But I would agree that we need all the competences.
Good. Yes, thank you.
Of course, I agree with everything that was said before, but I studied humanities, so my background is linguistics. So I have always had a question about STEM. STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Isn't engineering, mathematics, and technology science? So I don't really understand. So of course,
so now you want to change all that we've been talking about.
It's always been confusing to me, but of course it's very important. But I guess engineering would include also mathematics and technology and everything. But I just hope that we'll develop everything simultaneously and with huge excitement.
Good. I wanted you actually a little bit to pinpoint maybe some specific competencies or professions that are needed in the space industry. So if you could elaborate on that. One that you already mentioned is programming and coding. Maybe you could go on what kind of engineering or other careers are available in the space industry. Jaan, maybe you could just highlight a little bit.
So perhaps something which is very specific for space area and coming to be also in all the other technology areas more and more important is quality engineering.
Okay.
So how to test, how to set up the environments, how to set up the process to actually produce anything. This might be a bit it's not so well known that it has a so big part, and perhaps this should have a special attention if I would go further. Otherwise, for example, developing the electronics is very similar than developing any kind of electronics for mobile phones or robots or cars or anything like this. And also the programming is basically the same. The only really a part which makes it different is so heavy quality engineering. So how to carry out your process in such a way that you know that outcome is going to be good, because you are working still with a very big investment usually, and you don't have any possibility to go and repair.
Yep.
So this is big part. I would bring this to the front.
Cool. Still, I want to a little bit drag out from you some more from this aspect, because of course we have all the programming and engineering and also biology and medicine, but maybe I could ask Angelina, since you have this social background, maybe you could mention some of the professions that are not STEM related but are still useful in the space industry.
I think now it's very popular to talk about science communication, and that's what I like doing. So you catch an engineer and you say, explain what you do. And then you don't let him go or her go until they explain. And actually it's quite a challenge for them, but in order to develop these sectors, in order to get more support from the public sector, you have to communicate, to be able to communicate about what you do and why it's important. So science communication is super important here. Of course, languages, because the sector is very international. And I don't know, these humanities, they develop this curiosity and hunger for knowledge, for information. So just by this I want to say that humanities can be very integral and influential also in STEM industries. So I would really like to see the synergies between these two worlds. Okay.
Cool, thank you. Just to mention also that law and even philosophy are also a big part of space industry. Good. I remind you that you have a chance to also ask questions to our panel on this topic of how space and STEM can complement each other. But from this question, I would like to maybe go to the next level, and maybe you could elaborate from your point of view, what are the potential areas or potential directions in the space industry? Some of you have a more in-depth understanding of the industry, some are maybe less, but in your perspective, where does the space sector is moving, and maybe how does it relate to the problems here on Earth? If we could cover that.
Maybe I can jump from the commercial sector more. So we as an Accenture, we are agency. We are not a client, but we serve biggest global clients. And I would say the most tangible or the quickest application is Earth observation, of course. And as previously mentioned, it can be kind of ground, it can be sea, it can be ocean. And as colleague mentioned, right, those from software perspective, the skills are there. So it's a data science and computer vision and identifying patterns and predictive analytics. So in that sense, it's just a different scale. Enabled by the kind of satellite imaginaries, right? And then combining also now with involving possibilities of technology like quantum, you can quickly much more optimize and get much better results.
Can you just elaborate a little bit, since I know you have experience on Earth observation applications. So where do we actually use the data that we're getting from satellites, from Earth observation images? Where do we actually use them, just for a general public to know?
Yeah, so for general public, it could go more to the kind of public sector, right? Like to identify how the, I don't know, like forests, whether they are increasing or decreasing, or as Norway colleagues mentioned, to oversee what is the kind of also how the sea border is dynamically kind of increasing or decreasing or influencing some of the coastal destructions. But as well, of course, that can be analyzed in other sectors, as mentioned, also on defense. And there is a different input fields and combine with visual observation and also with the other data from the satellites on the, let's say, mobile networking. it can get very interesting insights on dynamics on specific segments.
Yeah, thanks, Jaan.
Yeah, but I would like to mention that one of the big mega trends, what also decision-making people should take into account, is that space is moving into a normal economical area, a private enterprises, and that means that we don't have cafeterias which are state-owned, but they are just like operating, or hairdressers. This is just like a normal economy that people are doing all these things. And it's going to be in space as well. This also means that part of the space glory perhaps will be washed away. It will be a normal economic area, but it is very important for successful economies to establish then in this field to be part of the future economy, which is having a strong space segment.
Angelina, yeah?
Maybe I can mention, I just came back from the International Astronautical Congress. This is the largest, most ambitious event in the space sector. So this time I think it was groundbreaking, like 7,000 people participating. So you sit there and you hear heads of largest space agencies talk about their crazy plans to, I don't know, to go on Mars, on the moon, something else. But again, the goal is not just to go on Mars or on the moon or to do something crazy, but it will be always technology transfer. So by developing technologies that we're going to use on Mars, we develop, for example, life support systems that we're going to use now in medicine. So space, again, I really agree. Thank you for mentioning this. This space is going to be normal, the same as planes previously was something crazy we fly. Now space, soon it will be like just space. But we will really use this as this new layer of innovation development, really ambitious innovation to make our lives, I guess, comfortable, more comfortable at least.
Cool. Yeah. Eglė, you have anything to add on this? Okay, good. But still, I know there's a lot of discussion in the general public going on. Why should we waste the money on rockets, on satellites? It's just, you know, burning the money in space, as many people say. So can you give maybe, or some of you can give some specific examples how the investments in space actually bring benefits here on Earth for people who don't care about the satellites or Elon Musk rockets or moon rovers or Mars rovers or even Mars helicopters. So can you give some examples how actually those investments into the space technologies bring benefit back to Earth?
I can give very quick, maybe small example, again, from commercial side. So mining, there is such kind of industry of mining, and it's very often this type of industries are located where there is no kind of 4G coverage, right? And if we're again moving industry to this more smarter or some of the autonomous kind of industry, so the humans are not kind of involved in the mining process, so to save human lives, right? So we want to have more smart machinery. So again, then we need this satellite connectivity, right? And then by having less expensive and easy to kind of set up private satellites, that's how we can enable more safety business there.
Cool. Eglė?
So what we like to emphasize in Lithuania, especially lately, is we simply say that space is something you use every day. That is a general message we try to send. And during my presentation, I was talking about one of the companies, Geometrics, and they provide solutions for common agricultural policy and for deforestation. So this is something that we can use every day, and those solutions are very relevant to, for example, the ones that working with common agricultural policy or others. So one clear message is that we use those space technologies every day.
Cool, thank you. Jaan,
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Space is absolutely everywhere. We don't realize, but if we would shut down all the satellites, we would not be able to buy a train ticket. We would not be even buy a cafeteria coffee probably if we don't have a cash in the pocket. Like everything, bank world, everything works on the satellites, which is already a very important part of the timing system and everything else. And from the general perspective, I think we agree that in order to pay your rent in a well-developed country, you have to be like having a technological edge. You have to work with a top technology. And space technology is a top for coming decades. So if we want to be competitive society which is like thriving here, we have to be involved in this area.
Can you guys, and if you give maybe some good examples how the investments specifically in the technologies for rockets, for rovers, for satellites, where can we see those investments here on Earth? Can you give some examples?
So what do you mean?
Like solar panels?
Yeah, okay. I mean, if you go to the history of Bell Labs, then yes, they were starting to build first transistors and the solar panels and the first satellites, and it was all like, at this time, it was the space technology what they were doing. And this is now in our pockets, having like millions of transistors in a single phone and so on. So, as I said, space has been and will remain the leading edge of the whole technology area. And I think one of the explanations why United States was leading and still leading the technology so well is actually the Apollo program. They made so big effort for more than 10 years and putting so much effort to very high technology. They are benefiting still now from this effort.
Cool. What about other aspects? Like we hear a lot about engineering, electronics. What about developments in the area of biology or chemistry or medicine? What about some breakthroughs in that area? Anybody can, if you share? Yeah, yes, of course.
I mean, if we take, for example, life support, and if we think we have been learning a lot how to sustain human life in orbit in a very closed compartment, a very closed environment, we have to make our Earth to be a spaceship where we are sustaining the life without polluting, without like doing. I mean, at the moment, the closest what we can have for circular life support and economy is an International Space Station. So if we want to learn about this, how to carry on Earth with the same kind of philosophy, space is a very good polygon to train these things.
Cool. Okay, let's move away from this one. I'm not going to torture too much on space possibilities, but I would like to move to the direction of understanding that, or understanding how can we be more successful, how our region can be more successful in the space industry. We hear so much about the big giants like Airbus or SpaceX or other big companies now emerging in space sector. We see those huge new rockets being built by private companies and satellites. But what do you think, from your experience, what are the key factors for big and small companies to be successful in the space sector? Eglė, maybe you could start, because you had I think Lithuania is a good example of how you start from very small and specific things, and actually those companies can grow pretty rapidly. What do you think? What are the let's say key factors to be successful in the space industry?
Yeah, actually there is maybe not even one company that started, for example, from internship at ESA or NASA, and now they are already startups and more mature companies. So I think what you need is more opportunities for students in terms of grants especially, and international opportunities. So to go to ESA, to NASA, to develop your idea. Or moreover, for companies, if it's a startup, so you need more national, international grants as well, more support, more investment, especially from the government. And although we speak about new space, still the governments are still very important here in this business, and we need to create simply more opportunities. And what I see in Lithuania, and we acknowledge that it's not only a challenge but a problem, is that there is a need for a stronger international cooperation to cooperate with large system integrators at first, and then with other smaller players in the sector. So in the Space Hub Lithuania, we will put more efforts in establishing international cooperation, in helping startups and more mature companies to develop to contacts with large players and small players as well. So I think you need a support system starting from students, even from schools maybe even, and also to focus very much on international cooperation. At least that's the challenge in small states.
Cool. Kristaps, your company has been successful in many and diverse areas of IT market, in mining, in space, and so on. Can you, from your experience with your company, can you say, is there a difference of how to be successful within the space sector from other sectors? Is there any differences?
I would say from industry specific or for the service specific, there is no big difference. It's a kind of incubation of the new service. But if to put one step back, also from the broader kind of outlook, I think the difference maybe is that for the startups, there is mentioned on ecosystems that we have learned as an ecosystem how to support startups, but space tech is more related to the deep tech. And this is a bit a different kind of angle, and that requires a longer investment fund and a longer patience to wait for results. And this is, I think, something we need to be honest, that this should be a different approach, not the classical support. Then again, looking from the commercial segment side, clients or the business kind of looks on, as incubator representative mentioned, what problems you are solving, right? So we need to start what problems we can solve, and then look actually on this, which are these technologies, whether it's space, it's not space. I think there is a lot of things like hybrid solutions, and this is also one of the ways how to do that.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Angelina, you want to add?
Yes, I would like to also comment from the Latvian perspective. We also have a space strategy. We published it at the beginning of 2021. So to be successful as a small country, we don't have to build a new Apollo mission. It's enough to offer small and niche technologies, because to create something innovative and small like this, you don't need a whole huge country. You need, I don't know, 5 people team. But for this, you have to cooperate as a business person with scientists, which can be challenging, but without it, it's impossible. And another thing, what we really want to develop is commercialization, and the whole world is talking about this. For example, in Latvia, space science is more developed than the industry. So, for example, we have this really valuable infrastructure. The huge radio telescope in Ventspils is the largest in the north. But now companies are reluctant to working with universities. They want to have a commercial story. So you have to create the spin-offs to make it faster, to really sell this data, which is very, very valuable. So commercialization and this deep tech, yeah, I agree.
Cool. Jaan?
Yeah, one like Timo said already in the presentation, one of the peculiarities of the space market is that 1/3 of the space market is still public money. So actually working with politicians and setting up the policies in the country is a very strong part of space, and it's, let's say, space area is still very well steerable and has a strong influence from the public sector, so that your customer is often actually a public player, and this brings a certain like specific things you have to do. So you have to act, like was already mentioned here, through the existing organizations like ESA and NASA, and you have to take into account how they work.
Good, thank you. I would like to go to the more challenging question, since we are organizing this forum around cooperation and getting more Northern Europe to work together. My big concern has always been, and maybe a small of envy, looking on the big space, aerospace companies in Germany, in Italy, in France, where they're creating really those big space infrastructure and involving so many students and so many small industries, and here in Northern Europe, especially in Baltics, we are relatively far away from this in the supply chain on supplying them with small, and of course the biggest value and the biggest added value is with the large system integrators. So I would like to challenge you a little bit and ask, why do you think we don't have those, let's say, large system integrators here in the Northern Europe, and can we be ambitious enough to claim that we will have some large system integrators here in the region? Who wants to start? Jaan, yes. I see you smiling.
I totally agree. We should have this ambition, but it also probably means a tough competition. And I would like to point out that these large integrators are very much built by public money and the public orders, and also military part is inside this. So it's still the public money in the equation. Making a large integrator in this market situation in northern countries, basically only for the market, is perhaps not easy or not even realistic. But definitely we start to see already small integrators like nanoavionics, like ISI, like GomSpace. So different countries start to have their own satellite factories already. So it comes.
Okay, good. Angelina, you wanna? No? No, okay. Kristaps, Eglė? Okay.
I mean, what I would like to, okay, if we talk about nanoavionics, it's a very cool success story. By the way, everyone is like, you're from Latvia, nanoavionics, very cool. I'm like, first I'm enjoying this first seconds of compliments, and then like, well, actually it's not my country. I spoke with them, they're great. So such, well, not large, but well, smaller, but still system integrators. This I would like to see more. But huge companies, I don't know, as Airbus or Thales Alenia, I'm not sure whether the society would like to spend governmental money on these projects. Better we'll use opportunities that Germany and others offer us, right?
Good, good. I said it's a little bit challenging question. Should we have it or should we use the other public money? Timo, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jaan. I don't think it makes sense. Also, the political wind that you would be steering against would be too harsh, and I think it makes no sense really, because we have seen with ISI, for instance, they just created their own new market there. It's not needed to compete with these. You just create a new market with your innovation. That's how you do it. That's the smart way for a small country. In space, because you automatically have global coverage with your spacecraft, you have a global market. You're no longer somebody who made, I don't know, let's say a watch in Latvia and wants to sell globally, distribution channels and so forth. You're immediately globally exposed. So go that route, that's my opinion. And also have governments support this innovation, commercialization framework so that these companies can succeed and don't dry out like a plant left in a living room when you're on holidays.
Okay, thank you, Timo. I think I promise it would be a challenging question, but thank you for giving a fair answer to that. We are about to go to our next coffee break. If you have some questions, I remind you you're welcome to ask. But on the closing note, maybe just let's get more emotional about space, not so practical. We are expecting a lot of young people watch our stream. We are recording it, and some of them might be deciding on joining the space sector, choosing the STEM as their career with a dream that they might contribute to the space sector. From your perspective, from your experience, what's the most fun of being part of the space ecosystem? Jaan, you go first.
I mean, most fun is like challenging goals, going to space, wonderful people, wonderful time, and getting something really done. And of course, like it's a priceless feeling if a satellite made by your students is traveling to space on the nose cone of the rocket. This is unbelievable.
I could see you trembling already, like a small rocket. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris.
From my side to all innovators, I would say there is two things. So, as initially said, there is roles for everyone, whether you are keen onto the deep math, whether you are designer, whether you are copywriter, right? So there is a role for everyone if you enjoy this area. And the second one is that I believe space, why it's so, for me, it's so passionate because you can create actually the future. You don't need just to be on something which is already done and just repeat it, right? So you can be a creator of the future.
Oh, that's great. Can you just repeat it? No, it's fine. Eglė, maybe you.
Okay, then I can answer. I really like the personalities of people who work in the space sector. They are both crazy and also very rational. So it's like this very rational craziness. You always will have very interesting conversations with them. But also as a motivation enabler for young people to join the space sector, you don't need to decide to study space engineering. You can be a linguist and write your, I don't know, bachelor thesis or master thesis, something related to space, because now the space sector really lacks people who can somehow orient themselves in the space world. It's not too difficult to learn, but it looks so nice on your CV, so.
Okay. Cool. Eglė, you wanna?
Yeah,
finish
so
up?
it's a very, I guess, specific community, and myself, I left space for a year, and now I've returned to working for with space policy just because it's so specific, and that's why I think that's why it attracts so many people and young people. Yes, you have to have a lot of knowledge, but still, just because of the specificity, I would say.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the panel.